Welcome to Book Reviews Kill, a podcast about fantasy, science fiction, and horror novels. I'm Evan.
And I'm Chad.
And you are listening to our recap for The Girl in the Tower, Book 2 in the Winternight Trilogy by Katherine Arden. This book is so good. What?
So good.
Okay, just full disclosure. I liked The Bear and the Nightingale a lot. It was a good dark fantasy tale.
Yeah.
But I didn't have a ton to say about it at the end of the... I mean, it's not because I didn't like it or because nothing really happened, but it was just kind of like, oh, look at all that stuff that happened.
Yeah,
all
it was
right,
like a jaunt too. It was like, okay,
yeah.
Cool. And I ran through this I ran through this fairy tale.
Right. It was like this kind of open and shut case. Just like, all right, here we go. And man, this is such a different book.
Such a different book. And did not suffer from second book trilogy blues at all.
Not even one bit.
The opposite of that.
The
story escalated to a whole new level, whole new set of characters, took a way different direction than I thought it was going. I always think that we're going to leave all the family behind and we're gonna go out on our own, but nope, we always return to the family, and that's a really cool thing. It's kind of a theme that's been going throughout this entire series so far.
Yeah, it's not only just your relationship to your family members, but the responsibility that you have to them. That's a huge thing, and we're going to talk about that a lot. Man, this book there were so many different little turns where I was like, oh, we're doing, okay, yeah, I'm on board for that.
Okay.
All right, yeah, let's go. Because I thought maybe it was going to be, this is what I thought. I thought that Vasia was basically going to go to Moscow right away, pretty much, and then just politics. That's basically what I thought was going to... And, maybe I should have gleaned more from the first book or something, but I for some reason, just didn't really see a lot of cool, magic, awesome stuff. And there was a lot of cool, magic, awesome stuff in this book.
So much cool, magic, awesome stuff.
We love cool, magic, awesome stuff.
Definitely.
But it was serious, too. It was very serious. This was a really serious book.
It was. It was not lighthearted.
Yeah, in a way that the first one... didn't. I mean, the first one wasn't really lighthearted either, but it was just, man, there's some really heavy stuff that goes on, especially towards the end of this.
This was not so much like a girl and her spirits in the forest having fun, and this book was way more serious.
Yeah, I don't really have I hardly have any critiques at all. I mean, I just have thoughts, just lots and lots and lots of thoughts. So yeah, I mean, without further ado, let's just get right into the recap on this one.
Let's do it. I'm excited.
The book begins in Moscow with a pregnant Olga telling a story of a childless couple gifted a child who falls in love and melts come summer. As the story ends, Olga's daughter, Maria, spots a ghost in the room, but no one else can see it. Olga's daughter wakes during the night with nightmares. Sasha returns from his trip to Sarai bearing ill tidings. On the road home, he came across burned villages with very few survivors, saying they had been attacked by bandits without warning who slaughtered everyone, burned their homes, and took away their daughters. Sasha also brings home another man of God, Constantine. Sasha reports to Dmitri, the Grand Prince of Moscow and his cousin, about his trip to the Tatars and of their strength. He implores Dmitri to rally his men and deal with the bandits. Constantine tells Olga a twisted version of the past events in Lesnaya Zemlya, claiming that due to Vasia's evil actions, their father Pyotr is dead. A boyar named Bashnya Kostai arrives at Moscow, asking Dmitri for help, as many of his villages have been burned to the ground and the villagers' daughters taken. Dmitri agrees to help him, gathering men and riding out in 3 days' time. Sasha rides out with Dmitri. After a week's travel, they begin to come across village after village with the same story. Bandits killing everyone and taking their daughters. They arrive at the Lavra, the monastery that Sasha and Dmitri had grown up in together, and take succor there. The chapter ends with a horse arriving in the night, bearing 4 passengers. They let it in and discover it is none other than Vasia, carrying 3 girls with her, whom she rescued from a bandit camp near the Lavra. We go back to Vasia in Marozco's house sometime earlier. Unable to convince Vasia to remain at home where she is safe, he outfits her with traveling provisions and sees her off. Alone in the forest, Vasia and Solavei are visited in the night by a shayert called Midnight, who questions Vasia, telling her she has been sent by someone else before disappearing into the night. After many nights through the snow, Basia comes across a town bigger than she has seen before. She is invited to dinner by a man named Kasian Ludovich, whom she refuses. She eats and rests at a local bathhouse, but is attacked by two men who have clearly been sent to find her. She fights them off and manages to escape with Solavei, barely making it out of the town, though she is pursued. Still pursued, Vasya and Solavei flee throughout the night. Vasya breaks out in fever and frostbite. As she lies on the brink of death, Marozco appears and saves her. He storms off, angry with Vasya for her foolish endeavor. We read a conversation between Marozco and his horse, where we learn that he made the jeweled talisman and gifted it to Vasia so he would not fade. Marozco returns and fills up her provisions and gives her a knife he shapes out of ice and teaches her to defend herself. He kisses her, then leaves. Vasia rides on and comes across one of the burned out and recently attacked villages, who tell her of the bandits and stolen daughters. She appeals to a local domovoi, who gives her a glowing ember, one that helps Vasia find the stolen girls in the woods, guarded by bandits. Vasia manages to distract the bandits and steal the girls away. After escaping with the children, Vasia is visited by Midnight again, who tells her that she had better run fast, as Lord Chelubey's people are many and good riders. She tells Vasia to ride eastward all night, after which she will find safety. Following Midnight's direction, Vasia and the children arrive at the Lavra, where Vasia reunites with her brother. Vasia tells Dmitri that she is Sasha's younger brother. She then leads Dmitri, his men, and Sasha back to where she found the children. They are ambushed and fight off the bandits with the help of Kasian, who comes to their aid. After finding and burning the bandits' abandoned camp, they return to the Lavra, where Sasha tells Father Sergei that Vasia is his sister. Vasia dreams of the bear, and then Marozco, who she confronts. They have a moment, during which Marozco says he will not kiss her again. Vasia, Sasha, Dmitri, and company take the rescued children back to their village. She gives one of the girls silver as a dowry, and reveals the secret of her false identity. On the road to Moscow, Kasian tells a story of his only journey to the city in pursuit of a lost love. Vasia sees a flash of anger on his face. They return to Moscow, ending the chapter on the entrance to Olga's house. All right, we're in the woods fighting bandits. Right where we want to be.
Right where we want to be. It's probably one of the first things that was so cool to me in this book was that we got to go and hang out in Moscow a bunch. Like a large portion of the story was there, but also we get to go all over the countryside. We get to see other forests that aren't her little forest up in, am I saying this right? Lesnaya. It's only mentioned a few times,
It's like
and I always
Lesnaya
stumble it.
Zamlaya or something.
Yeah, Lesnaya Zamlaya. That's Vasia's hometown. Oh, well, we get to see the forests that are not just that forest, and then another town, just all the traveling, and then the road of ice, which I thought was really cool.
It was much more than I thought it was going to be.
Yes.
And I was just really pleasantly surprised at all the action in this book.
Appropriately placed action too, like not too much for, because like, oh, the story's getting boring, so better throw in an action scene. It was like, no, all of it was required, perfectly placed, well done.
Yeah, I mean, like Vasia tricking the bandits, and she's so proactive, right? And it's like one of the best things
way of saying it.
I know, right? It's like there's a lot of other adjectives I could use.
Proactive.
Like proactive to a fault almost. But
Yeah.
I mean, is it a fault though? I mean, I think that's kind of the whole point, right? It's like
Falter if you may, but Vasia gets shit done
in kind of like that failing up kind of way. You know, like she's kind of stumbling through a lot of this. I mean, she almost dies, but it's like it's not really her fault. So she gets attacked. She's in the bathhouse, and then even before it said that she was still wet,
oh my gosh,
I was thinking that. I was just like, oh, this is so bad. This is so bad. And then she has to keep going, and yeah, that really ramped up.
I don't know if you've ever been like playing truth or dare or something when you were kids in the hot tub, and then got out during a cold winter night and had to do some crazy activity in the snow.
Yeah.
It is so yeah, me too. It is so miserable.
Yeah.
Just being a little bit damp, and like I'm glad that the author mentioned it, because the whole time, just like you, I was wondering, I was like, she's still wet. She's still wet. No.
So I don't know about you, but the bandits and kind of the whole mystery around the bandits, it kind of reminded me of the Red Ship Raiders from the Farseer trilogy.
Oh,
Did you get that vibe? Like
yeah,
they're
I
kind of
do now.
like, yeah, they're going in like no one really knows what's going on. They're kind of just going in and like destroying everything and taking everyone. So I just and they weren't leaving tracks. There was just like this kind of air of mystery about them. And
Yeah.
now that the book is finished, I think I kind of get it because we didn't really find out like exactly why these bandits weren't leaving tracks, right?
Yeah, or what they were doing with the little girls that they were taking.
I
I
imagine just like
assume,
imprisoning them or
well, I think he was trying to find someone else who could see and then use her as another like drain for his life force to keep him young, which is what he was doing with Maria at the end, right?
right, yeah, because like because Cassian, it's so interesting, like going back through all of this, and writing out these recaps and stuff, like after we finish the book, because Midnight even says Lord Chelube, right?
Right.
And just as readers, we just forget that did happen, right? I'm not
Oh no, she did. Yeah,
okay,
well, yeah, she goes Lord Chelobey's household or something. She mentions
yeah,
that.
and then obviously like we forgot, Vasia forgot, but I mean she could kind of tell, but I mean, so do you think that Cassian, who I was suspicious of right away,
From
by
the
the
get
way,
go.
yeah,
Yeah. Oh, I'm just a boyar who's in your area, but I just didn't want you to know who I am.
rubbed me completely the wrong way from the very get-go. I mean, I
Totally.
don't think that was like a failing on Katherine Arden's part. Like there weren't that many red herrings that could have really been thrown because he kind of just like appears in the forest. And then like there's like that really weird exchange between him and Vasia in that town
Oh
where
yeah.
he just kind of comes up and is just like, "Oh, would you like to have dinner with me?" And she's just like, "Fucking no."
It's like
Like
red flag alert. No, thank you, old stranger man.
and then like as the book goes on, I start thinking like, "Okay, maybe this guy's okay." But no, he's not. He's absolutely not.
I thought when he befriended her, I was like, oh, okay. So he's actually a good guy. I've just kind of been misled to think that he's a bad guy. Because he's
But
starting to like kind of
no,
be a little chummy with her.
just the whole his whole ass vibe was
Yeah,
just wrong.
you're right.
Yeah, I was just like something's up with this guy.
As soon as he became, I thought it was like 3 pages that he was like maybe redeeming a little because I was like, oh, he's getting all chummy with her. And then when he stops her from telling Dimitri that Chelebe was the guy that she saw in the
Oh,
forest or
yeah,
anything, I was
yeah,
like,
yeah,
oh,
yeah.
and he's bad again. Yep, yep, yep. Okay.
So I have a question though, like, and I was kind of mulling this over, and I don't know if I really landed on an answer for it, but do you think it was a good idea, or like what do you think about Vasya immediately telling Dmitri that she is Sasha's brother? Like we're going like full. I'm a man. This is the story. Like
Right.
immediately. I mean, like I'm kind of torn on it, right? It's like yes, with in the context of this whole like society and world, like the time period and things like that,
Mm-hmm.
it does make quite a bit of sense that a woman in this situation, at the very like best case scenario, would just not be taken seriously, right?
Right.
I think like in Vasia's head, she was kind of like, we need to take care of this situation, and nobody's gonna believe me if I'm like,
Right.
I'm a woman and I'm dressed like a man and and there's bandits out in the forest. They'd be like, whatever, it's just some
Yeah.
woman, it's just some crazy woman.
It was really hard for me to get into like the times and view it from that perspective because I was like, why? Like, really? They're just not going to believe you because you're a woman? Like, you silly little girl. And also you're probably a witch. Like,
But
I
like,
mean,
kind of though. Like,
maybe.
I mean, that's what happened in the first book when Vasia
Yeah,
is like basically taking care of everything in that village in the first book, and
absolutely.
everyone thinks she's a witch anyway. So, I mean, you can't really fault her for now. It's like it's a different question altogether. Of like, would like maybe Sasha with his kind of like reputation would have been
Mm-hmm.
able to vouch for Vasia had she chosen to like disclose her real identity, but it's just like it's weird. Not weird. Weird is not the right word, but it's just I'm having trouble really landing on like where how like what would have been the right answer there because it creates so many problems down the line.
Yes. I mean, it's like a huge problem later on. And I think probably her main motivation was maybe not that she wouldn't be believed, though I think you're probably right. She probably wouldn't have been. But I think her initial, like, I'm a boy, was from fear of being trapped. You know, like the whole time she's a free bird. She does not want
Yeah.
her wings clipped ever at all. And so I think as she thinks, and probably rightly so, as soon as she reveals that she's a girl, people are going to start treating her like they treat all women and be like, okay, let's find you a
Marry you off.
husband and me. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, and keep you inside and no more writing, let's get a dress for you. And she was like, nah.
Yeah, that's another really big thing in this book is like just women's place in this
Mm-hmm.
society. I mean, it's basically like you're brought up basically in silence, right? Like you are not to talk to anybody about
Right.
anything unless it's other women about the stuff that men are making you do.
Right.
Um
Or like knitting or
like
something. You're
right,
like, ooh, about ghosts.
and it's like and then you're either sent to a convent because you're crazy and we just don't want to deal with you,
You're
but
unmarriable.
right, or you're married off to someone and you do not have a say in it, and it's just like
Right.
that that is fucking awful,
Fucking
obviously,
awful. Yeah.
and it's like seeing it through Vasia's eyes as somebody that like Marozco tells her, like, if you go on the road you're gonna die because you don't know what you're doing, you have no idea what it's like out there, and he's not wrong. Like
No, she
we're
like
shown
almost
this
dies
like
on her
quickly
own.
like a couple times, and it's like, but she's willing to for like take that chance because she just doesn't want to be confined, like, and it makes for such a like sympathetic character, you know what I mean, like somebody that is this proactive and this aware of the danger, or a little bit unaware of the danger but still
Mm-hmm.
going on anyway. Just a really really fantastic main character.
Yeah, her she's very dynamic in that she's super capable, but at the same time her own hubris and her own capabilities gets her in trouble a lot. She's like, I'll be fine. Next thing you know, she's like freezing to death time and time again. Thank God for Morozco, because she would have
Right.
died like 3 or 4 times. Also, the first time they kiss, she's like, or he's like, I won't ever do that again. I was like, nah, yeah, no, you're definitely kissing her
Of
again.
course you are.
Like that's for
I know. I
surely
love
going to
that part.
happen.
I love that part. It's like at the end of one of the chapters. She's just like, I can't remember the exact quote, but she was just like, like he's just gonna kiss me and why don't you just go or something like that? And he's just like, okay, I'm just gonna leave. And she's like, no, wait, like
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, I've totally been there before
I've
where
been
I've
there,
like,
Marozco. Feel ya?
I've been there, Vasia. Like
Oh,
I've totally been the like, no, wait, guy
wait,
before.
hold up, hold up.
Wait, no, I was just joking. I wasn't trying to be an ass. But yeah, I mean, like, I feel like that's just like a really good kind of like, I like the very mysterious will they won't they here. Like
Yes.
it's so delicately done. Morozco isn't even written as like this, you know, ridiculously attractive person or entity or anything like that. I think it's just like he seems to. I have mixed feelings about Marozco too,
Me too.
obviously, because it's like, come on, man.
And she's
Like,
like 15. You're like infinitely old. Like, come on.
I think I think Vasia is like 20.
Oh, is she?
I'm
I
pretty
just imagine her.
sure.
Maybe I got first story blues, first book blues, and I'm stuck in like
Um,
child phase or
I'm
something. But I just
pretty
imagine her.
sure she's like 20,
Oh,
like
okay.
19 or 20 or something like that.
Huh.
Yeah, she's not like a teenager. I don't think. I don't. I mean,
Okay.
I could be wrong. My math
Either that or
could be
maybe
wrong.
late teens.
Right. I don't know. I thought that was just like done really really well because it's like
Mm-hmm.
even at the end of the second book, like I don't even know whether or not that would be a good thing. I don't think it would, but like Morosco seems to
Yeah.
actually, because there's that conversation on the horse, right, where the horse is kind of like chiding him a little bit, like, "Oh, you're like kind of falling for this girl," and he's
Uh-huh.
just like, "No, I'm not. I'm the god of death. Like, come on,
I'm
like."
too tough for that. I don't deal with death. I love
um,
the lever of the horse mechanism, giving him a sentient horse so that way we could get information by him having conversations with his horse who says things back to him. Do you think that the horse is more than the horse says than just a
I don't know,
horse?
like Morosco's horse.
Yeah, do you think he'll
Uh,
become
I don't
something or we'll
know.
get some backstory there?
I think that's a lady horse.
Oh, it is. It's a mare. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
right. Some of
Um,
her backstory.
I don't know. I like Solavei a lot.
Me too. Solovey is the
Solovei's,
best.
yeah. I mean, like, Vasia is a great character because of all the nice, cool literary things that I just said. But Solovei is obviously the best character in these
Oh,
books, like
obviously.
hands
Like if I was
down.
gonna get a beer with anyone, it would definitely be Solovey,
Yeah,
and I
I
would
like
feed him.
Solovei.
He's
Yeah,
gonna be hard with the hooves.
Solovei just loves porridge.
Dude, he just loves porridge. It's so funny how he's so human sometimes, and then he's so much like a dog other times. They'll be like walking, and he like keeps looking his head back, like, "Can I get some of that like sticky donut?" What?
Yeah, there's like multiple times where he's just like, um, so can I get some porridge, please? Like,
Yeah,
yeah, he's really great. And he seems to kind of like Vasia and him have like a pretty cool little back and forth a lot of the time too, where like he kind of seems to check her now and then and be like, oh, like this is kind of a dumb idea, like I don't know about this, but he also lets her do like basically whatever.
totally.
Like,
He like without question has her back, but he's always like, "Oh, okay, though. Like someone should kind of be a voice of reason here."
yeah, like there's no adult in the room with Solovei and Vasia, and I really really like that.
What do you think that the Chiort is? Am I saying that right? Chiort?
Midnight?
Um, yeah, Midnight. I
No
mean,
idea.
obviously she has a larger
No
role in the
idea.
grand scheme of things, but she was a very confusing character to me.
There's this thing in this book, and I think that it's one of the most interesting things about it, and one of the reasons that I liked it so much more than the second or than the first one is that there's like this weird kind of like other thing going on here, right? And it's so barely touched on, but there
Right.
seems to be like a bigger bad, or like some
Yeah.
kind of like there's some, and maybe I'm misreading it, or
Whoever
maybe
Chiort's working for.
yeah, and I really hope that that's this what this third book is all about. Is it seems like Marozco is more or less not really much in the picture, and we'll get to that after the second recap. But I'm curious, like this Midnight character. I don't know what that's all about.
Yeah, like she said that she was sent by someone to check in on her, basically get eyes on, and that she'll see her three times, which happened all three during this book. And each time she comes around and says, like the first time she just shows up, the second time she is very useful, and that she points Vasia to the Lavra, and then the third time it's very mysterious, which we'll get to in the second part. But man, she was a very intriguing character to me. I'll be disappointed if we don't find out
There's
her
no way.
bigger picture. We
There's
gotta.
no way. That's got to be.
It is the forecasting of the next book, I'm sure.
And what a cool name, Midnight. Okay, I have a question about Sasha.
Okay,
I like Sasha.
me too.
I just want to. I do have a question, but I do want to make like a cool kind of like notice. Um, I'm so glad that Sasha isn't like, how do I put this? Uncompromisingly religious. That would have
Yes.
been so boring, and I'm so glad that that's not like. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love a religious fanatic in a fantasy book. It's always
Right. But
fun.
we already have
But like,
Constantine.
we already have Constantine, and it's like Sasha. It's just it wouldn't have it would have just been annoying, and
No,
like it just I'm so glad that that wasn't the case.
me too. He's more of
Um,
a knight. Like the
right?
relationship
Yeah, that
between
was my
him and
question.
Dimitri is
Yeah,
awesome.
that was my question. Is like is he like a he's like a warrior monk,
I kind
right?
of
That
yeah, I
seems
kind of
okay.
put him in the
Cool.
realm of like a paladin.
Right.
Like
Um,
a fighter for the forces of good.
cool. I was just wanted to make sure that we were clear on that because it's like I mean obviously like he can fight, but I didn't know like what his role was.
Right.
I was like hazy because in the first book it seems like he's just monking, you know, like
Monking out.
he's just out, he's just living in a monastery, you know, just
Here a
hanging,
monk, there a
just
monk,
praying.
everywhere a monk.
But like it's even in the first part of this book, you know, it describes him as coming back from basically like not really a war, but just he was sent out in a way that would like maybe like Western European like knights would go out.
Yeah, almost like as a spy, like an emissary spy to go check
Totally.
out Sarai, which I hope we get to see some of the Khan's nation in the next book. Because Sasha mentions like Moscow looks like drab compared to Sarai.
What if, and I'm just getting this idea right now, what if like the big bad has to do with the Tatars? and like the
Ooh.
cons and stuff, because there is kind of like this, there's like this threat kind of overhanging
Mm-hmm.
Rus and Moscow and stuff, and it's kind of touched on a little bit in various conversations that Dmitri and Sasha have. But yeah, that might be pretty interesting. I don't
Yeah,
know. I could be
the
wrong.
rebellious attitude that Dimitri has, where he's like, "Yeah, I just kind of stopped paying the bill," and I love how he's just like banking on them like not having their books in order. He's like, "How could they possibly? There's been so many cons that have come and gone. Like last thing they're doing is math."
I haven't paid in like 2 years. They didn't say
Yeah,
shit. But it's like
and he
Sasha's just
still
like, oh
hasn't.
my god, man! Like
Yeah, he's like,
they're
"Oh
saying it
Jesus."
now. But that's kind of that's I guess that's kind of your part. But
Yeah, but still, I'm thinking that Dimitri after this book might be like, okay, it's time for some real rebellion, and maybe he takes the war. I don't know. I'd love it if we got like some awesome Russian knights fighting off some Mongols in this next book. Do you think that it was Cassian's magic that was making the tracks go away?
yeah, yeah. Like I
Okay,
thought about it a lot, and it's like really the only explanation,
it's got to be.
right? Yeah. Because Cassian just kind of appears in the forest. He's just like, ah, I'm here to help. Like I just
Yeah,
came. Did he like come in the same from the same direction that the bandits were running to? Like, I mean, I don't think
yeah,
that was it, but it was just like, like he just kind of shows up and they're just like, hey, someone who's obviously not in league with these bandits we're fighting. Like,
right.
cool, you've got red hair. Like,
I
no,
mean,
I don't know. That
hindsight
was
being 2020, but like
right. Yeah,
still it was he was I thought he was very suspicious from the get-go. And there was multiple times they're like riding together and they're like, Dimitri is gathering respect for Cosmo. I was like, really? He's respecting this dude? Like, has not been paying him, knows he exists, comes to ask for help when he can't do something, not been paying his taxes. Like, I don't know. This guy's
Dimitri's
shady.
just like, I like this guy. I mean,
Yeah, real rebel.
Dimitri's not paying his stuff, so
Yeah, what'd you think about Dimitri as a character?
I liked him a lot. He gave me like a Robert Baratheon kind of vibe,
Yeah.
you know. And like
Like big
Sasha's
tubby
like,
belly drinking
yeah,
all the time.
like, but like can be regal when occasion calls for it.
Right.
But yeah, like and then you've got like Sasha, the Ned Stark kind of more stoic, and I'm
Mm,
sure that dynamic has obviously been used over and over again in lots of stuff. But he just gave me a total like big slobbery king kind of
yep.
vibe, and I love that.
Some wine dripping down the front of his
Yeah,
his tunic.
but he's getting shit done, you
He
know.
is getting shit done. And
Yeah.
especially with a nice stable head like Sasha by his side.
All right, I think that's gonna do it for the first recap. What do you think?
Okay. I think so.
Okay, cool. Let's go right into the second one.
All right. Sasha reveals Vasia to Olga and tells her of Vasia's lie he has been helping to continue. Olga is not pleased, but agrees that they must continue the deception. Sasha meets with Constantine to hear his side of the circumstances surrounding his father's death. While similar, the tale Constantine tells is different from Vasia's, and Sasha knows that one of them is lying. At a party at the palace, Vasia and Sasha are told that Dmitri's wife is pregnant, and that a Tatar ambassador has come demanding the tribute he owes to the Khan. Vasia notices that the Khan's emissary is the bandit leader she rescued the children from. She tells Sasha, but Sasha confronts her about her father's death, the extremely nice knife she has, and Solavei, telling her that he knows she is not being truthful. Vasia gets a glimpse of the ghost living in Olya's house and realizes her niece Maria can also see spirits. Vasia takes her on a horse ride in the city and is cornered in the market by Chelubei, who tries to prevent her from leaving, knowing that she is the girl he saw in the forest. She is saved by Cassian, who comes and escorts her home. Later, Vasia sees a horse running wild and stops it, but is confronted by Chelubei, who says the horse is his. They make a wager that if she can ride his horse before noon, she keeps the mare. But if she can't, he gets her horse, Solavei. She successfully tames the horse and rides her. Her fame grows. Cassian is befriending her, and she tells him who Chelubei is. He agrees to help her, but she must not tell the Grand Prince until she has proof. At the prince's feast that night, Vasia tries to tell Dmitri who Chelubei is, but is interrupted by Cassian, who drunkenly challenges her to a horse race the next day. She agrees. Basia rides with Marozco, and they share passionate kisses under the moon, before Marozco ends it with a word of caution. During the race the following day, Cassian manages to pull the head wrap from Vasia's head, revealing to all that she is a girl. Dmitri is enraged and sends her to Olya's to await punishment. He tells Sasha the same and imprisons him at the monastery. Cassian visits her and offers to marry her, saying that doing so will save her from potential burning and prevent her brother, sister, and her sister's children from being cast out in shame. She agrees to marry him. She tells Olga of her suspicions that Cassian is behind the villages being burned, and that the Tatar emissary is actually one of his men. The conversation, however, is interrupted as Olga goes into labor. The birth is difficult, and Vasya sees Marozco come to take her sister away as she is dying. Marozco tells Olga either her or the baby will perish. Olga chooses the baby, but Vasya makes the decision for her, pulling her back to the land of the living. The baby is born dead. Vasya meets with Marozco and tells her how her father found her the night he died. She gives him his crystal back, refusing to wear it, and it melts in Marozco's hand. Rodion returns to find Sasha imprisoned in the monastery and tells him that Solavei is Cassian's man, and that he is behind the destruction of the villages. Knowing he must warn Dmitri, Sasha breaks out of his cell and meets Vasya on his way to the keep. With the aid of a castle spirit, Vasya is able to alert the Grand Prince's house of danger. Not a moment too late, as Cassian's men have already broke into Dmitri's keep. A battle breaks out. Cassian's men and undead creatures fight Dmitri's guards and Sasha. Vasya releases Solavei and the golden mare of Cassian's from the stables. The golden mare becomes a flaming bird and flies away, burning everything in its wake. The city begins to burn. Vasya sees Cassian take Maria from Constantine, and they rush inside the keep. The fight is slowly being won by Dmitri and Sasha, who make amends amid the battle and rally the troops. At the top of the tower, Vasya confronts Cassian, who is trying to drain her niece's life to maintain his youth. They fight, and Vasya is saved by the ghost in Olya's home, realizes that the ghost is her grandma, Tamara. Cassian has been using the ghost to stay alive all these years. Vasya manages to destroy Cassian's magic, linking his life force to Tamara's, which causes him to rapidly age and perish. With Cassian dead and his soldiers defeated, the city must evacuate, as Moscow has gone up in flames. Vasya recalls that she can get Marozco to come if she dies. Intending to sacrifice herself, she runs back into the flaming city. Marozco appears as she is burning and choking to death. Using her mysterious powers, she pulls Marozco to her in the city, and he is able to save the city, using wind and snow to extinguish the fire. Vasya tells Sasha and Olga everything about her powers, and how their father died. They forgive her, the summer arriving, chasing away the final frost of the winter, signaling a time of hope and new beginnings. Man.
All right, so did Vasya set Moscow on fire by releasing that bird horse thing?
Absolutely.
All right, just wanted to get that clear so I could...
I'm not sure if the phoenix bird flew deliberately, weaving in and out of the alleyways to light the entire city aflame, but it kind of seems that way, or maybe it was just dripping molten lava as it flew above it or something.
Why did she do that?
I think the stables were on fire, maybe. And so she goes in there maybe she was just releasing Solavei, and then she sees the horse and was like, I'm going to release the mare too, because this is the queen of horses or something.
Yeah, but Solavei is just don't do that. And Vasia's, it felt almost like Vasia was she just entranced by this thing? Or that was just weird. I thought that was weird.
It was weird. Because she goes in there to get Solavei, right?
Yeah.
And then she sees the mare and is like, oh, let the mare out too. And the mare's like, Flamebird, explodes through the ceiling.
I had to read that part 3 times because
me too.
Everything just moved so fast. I was just okay, wait, what? And now it's this giant flame bird. All right,
yeah.
Cool. I mean, I'm here for it, but
yeah, I'm in
what?
it.
So Vasya accidentally set Moscow on fire. Not
Not just,
cool,
not just a
Vasia.
building, the entire city. Yeah, Vasya and her getting stuff doneness does make some major mistakes, that being one of them.
That is a major mistake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now I think she knew that there was something more about the mayor
Mhm.
than just a horse. So maybe she was like, I need to set free the spirit that Castian has trapped or something. I don't know.
I don't know either. Maybe you and I just didn't read it correctly.
Maybe so.
Maybe
I'm more
somebody that's listening could email us and tell us what happened there. But yeah, I was just a little confused. But I mean, whatever. It's not that big of a deal.
if there's one little bit of criticism that I have for this book, and just Catherine's writing style is when things get really chaotic and like seven things are happening simultaneously. Sometimes I have to read things two or three times to fully get what's going on.
Yeah,
There's just like a lot of chaos.
yeah, and it's not even that it's not clear. It's just that we're like a lot of things happen really quickly.
Yeah.
It's not like bad, really.
No.
It's just like I wish
Confusing.
I wish it would slow down a little bit and just like maybe when she's writing it, it's so clear in her head, and she's just like, yeah, like all the
so cool.
But it's like me reading it. What's cool is when everything kind of settles. Like Catherine Arden seems to do a pretty good job at kind of explaining a lot, and like there's always like a good like we're like catching our breath moment.
Mm-hmm.
So I appreciate those.
Yeah, I also like that the city is on fire. So, okay, once the big baddie is defeated, we still have like a uh-oh, major problems still are happening right now.
I thought that the way, and I don't know if you picked this up, but the way that Rodion describes Cassian's like house or
Okay, I
whatever.
was going to ask you about that.
Okay, yeah.
Who is Rodion? I missed
don't
that.
know.
I
It's
don't
just like-
know.
I think
he
he's
just
a-
shows up.
I think he's a fellow warrior monk.
Yeah,
I think. I think.
like I feel like I missed its chunk, and I probably did, and I'm just not remembering it. Where Sasha's like, "Hey man, can you go like ride out and like check out Cassian's home and like figure out who this guy is?" But like I don't
Right.
remember that.
Sasha talks to Sergei
Okay.
about Cassian. Remember that? There's like that really, really short conversation. I think it's like a little bit earlier in the
yeah.
book. And Sergei is kind of like, we'll check this guy out. So I think maybe
Okay.
it was creepy the way that Rodion, like, I would need to grab the book to,
Yeah, well, he said
to-
it's like where dead people live, and it's a
Yeah.
house of bones. Maybe
it was a house of bones.
Yeah.
That's, it was like one sentence, but I got like
Uh-huh.
a chill. It was just so creepy.
Same,
Just
but it's
this like empty house full of bones, and they're just like, oh
Yeah.
shit, this guy is not the guy we think he
like,
is.
is anyone in here? Oh my god. Well, like, if you were like, dude, it's a house of bones where the dead walk and living die. I'm like, okay, well, like, what do you mean by house of bones? Like, is it made from bones? Is it full of bones? Do we have bone piles? Like,
Maybe
do
it's
we have like bone
all.
cutlery?
Maybe it's all bones. It's
Oh, maybe so.
bones all the way down.
How did he know where Castian's house was?
I don't know. A really good question.
Yeah,
Um,
I
it
was
is
kind of confused
implied
about
that
that.
they found it.
Okay.
You know what I really loved? I love a good horse race.
Me
Oh,
too.
that was so cool.
I was
And-
really disappointed that it didn't end.
Right, and that's the funny thing is, I was not expecting Cassian to just rip off her hood and expose her like right there.
Yeah.
I was listening to this on audiobook at work during that horse race, and somebody at work must have seen my jaw drop as I was just like, oh shit, this is so nuts.
Yeah, I agree. I love the horse race and the scene where he like grabs her like bridle, starts slowing him down. Like, what is happening? There was so much happening. I read that a few times, but them like jumping over the cart, oh man, it was just what a great horse race.
It kind of gave me like Mulan vibes. Like that part where they find out Mulan is a girl. It's like that same kind of feeling when
Totally.
when you're watching Mulan. It's just like, man, you guys have been so much respect has been earned between these two people.
You
Like,
guys been fighting, bleeding together.
yeah, and then oh, you're a girl, get the hell out of
Mm.
my sight. And it's just like,
Yeah.
oh god, it's so like looking at it now in the year of our Lord 2022, it's like it's so dumb. Like I can't.
It
And
doesn't
I
make
think,
sense. Like
and you
it's
kind
hard to
of
even look at it from their perspective.
exactly, yeah. You kind of touched on that earlier, where it's just like it's so obvious that it's just not even a big deal at all. But to them, it just is. It's like this axiomatic thing where it's just like, well, now that we know you're a woman, you're obviously a piece of shit. So
Right.
like
And
you
we
just
probably should burn
like
you at the stake.
obviously, and they're not. They don't even have like the humility to say, "Wow, you got us there," or like, "Wow, we were wrong. We thought you were." They're just like, "Nope, this is 100% your fault. We had like, you know what? It's just so gross and dumb." But obviously, it being in the book isn't gross and dumb.
Right.
Just you know what I mean?
Just
Like
that
I'm
whole
glad
idea.
it all works really really well for this story.
But yeah, it's really hard to even kind of see where they're coming from. Like I really kept thinking, hoping that it would be more focused around her deception and Sasha's deception. Like Dmitri was all pissed off because he was deceived and betrayed. You know, his trust was broken, not because she was a girl. And they just kept going back to the girl thing. And I was like, man, just like
Well, that's
I
kind of
get
what
I get the deceit one being mad about that, but the whole girl thing, like, dude, you guys have been you've been like doting on her for the last couple of weeks. Like, we will get you horses and a fine lass. Come drink with me.
that's kind of what happens with Cassian. Remember, he kind of when he pulls off Vasia's hood, and they're all kind of talking after the fact. Cassian is even, still playing his part. He's kind of like, this wasn't even Vasia's fault. This was Sasha, right? And
Right.
he's like still scheming and stuff. I mean, I didn't actually hate it because it was really well done, but I hated that scene
Oh, me
with
too.
Cassian and Basia, and he's just like, ugh, it's just gross, like kissing her, and
Yeah.
she's just, God, that was
Ugh.
awful. I hated reading that part. Like it was just,
Yeah.
and that was the
And he
part
strips
where,
her naked, right? Halfway. He
oh
strips
yeah,
her
yeah.
shirt off, I think,
Before that,
too.
yeah, like when he exposes her as a girl, yeah, it was just, yeah, all of that fucking sucked, but not in like a quality way, but you know what I mean.
Right.
Like,
It was
just
tough to
read
read.
that was tough to read for us as like two guys.
Yeah.
like,
It's like,
like
oh,
we're just like, oh man, that'd be terrible, and women are probably just like, yeah, you
it
guys, like,
was.
yeah, like
Sucked a lot.
always sucked, like to one degree or another. You guys, one line that I really wanted to talk about, and I noticed this reading it, and it just like really jumped out at me. There's this one line. I think this was from Vavara, who was Olga's maid or something,
Oh, yeah,
like
yeah. Her like
housekeeper.
head maid.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. She's talking to Vasia, and she says, "Living is both better and worse than fairy tales." And I think that that's kind of like you could really sum up a lot of the themes in this book
Hmm.
around that one line. Like it's a really really important line in my opinion. And almost, and to me what it meant is kind of like as you keep growing up, your options kind of start narrowing, your expectations start getting broken, and your responsibilities start piling up. And there's really good parts about that you didn't really expect, and there's a lot of like really crappy parts about that.
Right.
And but it's never exactly the fairy tale. It's never the story that you told yourself, right? And I just pulled so much out of that line, and it was spoken by somebody who had like 4 or 5 lines in the whole book.
Like very
Like,
few lines.
yeah, it
Yeah.
was just like a really insightful thing.
Yeah. Well, that line's also speaking, I think, to, fairy tales usually end with like a gallivanting off into the sunset sort of thing. But it's like in real life, life goes on and we must suffer with the choices that we made, whether good or bad, and deal with those consequences and then grow and, keep on living tomorrow. There is no riding off into the sunset that happens.
Yeah, and to kind of expand on that, there are a ton of moments toward the end of this book where Vasia has an opportunity to just bail.
It's a
Like
dip.
she could just escape the entire situation. She's got the fastest horse in the world, lots of money.
Hmm.
There's some real growth here where she starts to weigh her responsibilities to her own family. And it's like me personally reading it, I think I need to read the third book and maybe think about it a little bit more to kind of like land on what I think that she should do, which I think is another mark of a really well put together character is that I still don't even know like what the right move would have been in a lot.
Right.
There were multiple parts when I was reading it where I was like, you should just get out of here. Like this is just like
Bounce.
this lie that you've got. Like it's not going to get any better. This is just going to end
No.
badly. Obviously,
Go.
Sasha and Olga are going to be fine, probably. and the chances of them being okay are better with you gone,
Yeah.
But then she finds out that the the Grand Prince is going to be deposed and everything. It's complicated, and she doesn't really know what to do. This is great. Like the line
Yeah.
between that line between freedom and responsibility is just
Mm.
it's not as clear as Vasia thought it was.
Right. And I don't think that she quite knew the consequences of her actions. Just one little lie, I'm a boy, which she thought she was going to ride for a little while before skipping on across the countryside to visit warmer pastures, ends up almost destroying her, get her burned at the stake, almost
Which they
destroys
bring
her
up quite
brother.
often, by the
So
way.
often, yeah. It's
Like
like, man,
they
how often are
very
we burning
casually,
women?
yeah. Oh my god.
Frequently. Anyway, almost destroys her, burning to death, destroys her brother, and destroys her sister, and their kids being like cast out in shame. Just wow. I think that kind of surprised her. It surprised me, and I think it also surprised her. Just like, okay, the consequences of my actions here, that was like not cool. And now I realize that because she's like, I can take anything. Well, it's not just you that you're putting in harm this time. You put a lot of other people in harm and almost ruin their lives too.
Speaking of decisions that Vasia just fucking makes without consulting anybody, was when Olga's delivering the baby.
Whoa.
Like, okay,
Oh.
okay. Like, I mean, all right, so I can't have a baby. I don't have a huge dog in this fight, but like that's kind of Olga's call,
Oh,
Vasia.
super
Like, oh
Olga's
my
call.
god, like it was so.
She's like right there when Marozco's like, you can choose yourself
Oh
or the
man,
baby. And Olga's like, the baby. And Vasia's like, no. I was like,
that
wow.
honestly, like that made me like Vasia's, like just that made me like Vasia a little bit less.
Yeah, oh, me
Like it
too.
really, where I was just like, man, this right,
Uh-huh.
like you're such a child. Like that's such a, ugh. It was just
Yeah.
that was
Just
awful.
how dare you make that decision and how dare you make it for someone else who just made it the opposite of what you were there for the whole thing. Like, oh man, it was just what a breach. Like that was probably the biggest slight that Vasya made the entire
And it's
book.
it's so weird because she's growing in a lot of different ways, obviously. But I mean, we're not at the end of this trilogy yet. We don't
Mm-mm.
know. Like, it sounds like Vasi's heart is obviously very much in the right place. It has been this entire time. She's a very good person, and there are some really bad people out in the world. There's some bad events that are happening, and she's trying to deal with it. But it's just like she crossed the line, in my
Oh yeah.
opinion. Like,
Oh, for sure.
I
She
don't know,
crossed a
maybe
major line.
I like can't think of a reason why that's not crossing the line. I'm like trying to entertain like some
No,
kind of
she
like,
crossed a line. It was
yeah.
not cool. It was
Uh,
not cool. She was just
what
did it because she was selfish and just didn't want to lose her sister.
what did you think? Were you surprised when you learned that the ghost of the tower was Vasia's grandmother? Because it
Yes
didn't.
and no.
Okay, because it didn't really surprise me at all.
No, like I
Like
knew that the
not.
ghost I didn't know that it was her grandmother, but I knew that the ghost was going to be some big thing cuz like throughout the whole book people keep seeing flashes of the ghost and
Yeah.
every time they're like it's nothing. I'm like it's definitely a thing. Like there's no ghost here, definitely there's ghosts here. Um it did surprise me that the ghost was being kept around, like the whole mechanism that Cassian was doing. Like I was, maybe you can shine some light on this. So in the final throwdown,
Yeah.
uh, Vasya realizes, oh, there's some sort of like talisman around the ghosts. There must be another talisman around the ghost's neck that is like linking them, that is allowing Cassian to draw her life force. So she takes it. Like that seemed like a crazy leap to me.
Yeah, I think that it was on Maria.
I think it was on the ghost because she jumped forward. She was like, I can't see her because she's a ghost. So she grabs where she like thinks the talisman should be and then comes away with it.
But wasn't Mario wearing some kind of necklace too?
She was too. And I think that's what led her to believe like she was trying to.
Does this guy Cassian just have like lots of
Yeah.
different like essence sucking necklaces or
Yeah.
something?
Yeah. I think he was like, I need more essence. I need more essence.
Oh
And,
my god.
and so that's why he realized she was like, oh, okay, well, he was doing this to Maria. So he must have done this to Tamara.
Well,
But
like I get that Tamara was linked in a way that was making it so that Cassian didn't age or die. I knew that.
right, but how can you
Um
suck the life force from a ghost?
I don't
If the ghost
know.
is
And
already dead.
maybe it's just like the idea of the person is keeping them alive. I don't
Yeah,
know.
maybe so. Or maybe he did it once and got like double the life essence and then that killed her. So now she's a ghost.
I don't know.
And then that's
Yeah.
why he needed to do it again with Maria or
Maybe it's
something.
just the fact that she can't rest, right? Like that she's hanging out in ghost
Huh, okay.
dimension or whatever. I'm not really sure. And I don't think it's like I don't think that it's like the kind of thing that we absolutely have to know. We just have
No,
to know that that's what the situation is. It's a weird line in fiction and fantasy and stuff like that
it
where
is.
and I think that that might be why a lot of people seem to gravitate towards science fiction is because a
Hmm.
lot of that stuff is very fleshed out and there's not a whole lot of like, well, how the hell would that work in
Right.
science fiction? But
Because you
I
can't
don't.
just go magic.
Well, with like fairy tale type stuff like this, and admittedly, like this is getting less fairy tale ish as the book goes on. It's getting a little more real, which I think
Yeah.
is like a really good representation for the loss of innocence. Like
Yes.
they like this is very much a coming of age story.
The
Um,
entire thing.
yeah, it really is. I just want to talk about this guy like for a little bit, and then I don't really want to talk about him anymore because I just don't really care,
Okay.
even though he's important. But like Constantine,
Oh
he did the
God.
same thing at the
He's
end of
the
this
freaking
book.
worst, this guy. Dude, he is like he reminded me of Morrow or
Oh,
Barrow from
Yeah.
JC. Like, he just can't not do crime. He just can't not be a schmuck. He can't not be a schmuck. Old
Well,
Constantine.
and I there's like that part where Vasia kind of calls him out, and he's just like, I don't know, you're so beautiful.
I love you, but I
Yeah,
hate you, and you're
she's
beautiful. And I'm afraid.
and I loved
Ah.
her reaction too because she's just like, I don't even have time for this shit. Like, she's just like, fucking whatever that
Gives
is,
him the most
man.
like hurtful
Like,
answer.
yeah, like I have so many other things to deal with besides whatever you're doing. Like, I
Right.
don't
Like, I
care. It
don't
was so
care.
great. It's so great.
Oh, it felt so good to have her just
Like,
like brush him off like a bug. Just like, and how does the book end with him? We don't really see a
I think
Constantine
he
ending,
might be
huh?
in the third
Oh my
one.
god, dude, he's gotta go. He's gotta go. This guy. I'm so glad, and also not glad that you brought up Constantine. I will stop talking about him after this. But I was just like when
I had to
he,
bring him up.
I like my brain must have been shorting out from realizing it was him because I didn't know it was him until he tells his name to Olya.
Are you
I shouldn't.
serious? I knew
Yeah,
like immediately.
I
Yeah.
realized that as a good book reader, as a halfway intelligent person, I should have immediately realized. But I think my brain was so much like hoping that he just like
Oh
was
my
not
god,
around, not a
that's
thing,
awesome.
that I didn't
That's great.
realize it. And then I was like, oh, of course. Dang it. Ugh, Constantine, you're the worst. Seems
I
like
think
everyone who shouldn't fall in love with Vasya is falling in love with Vasya.
she's so lovable.
It's very lovable.
Yeah, if you can just look past her being a witch,
Dude,
a
okay, so
witch.
that term is used so many times and
Yeah,
it's so undefined because she gets asked multiple times like Vasya, are you a witch? And she's like, I
I
don't
don't
know what
even
that
know what
is.
that word
Like,
means.
I'm not
Which,
sure.
by the way, awesome answer though, because like, yeah, I mean, it seems to vary, depending on who you talk to, like what a witch
Totally.
actually is. I don't think she doesn't think she's a witch.
No, we've already touched on it a little bit, maybe a lot of bit, so maybe this is just beating a horse twice, but it was a really interesting and I think important line at the end of the book when she meets for the third time her third encounter with Midnight, Vasia's third encounter with Midnight, where she says, Vasia would wish she would have realized the significance of this at that time
Yeah,
later. And this, and
yeah.
what she says, she asks if Tamara and Cassian are dead. And then she says that her mother will be glad. So,
I think that's just okay. So this is my thing with this.
okay,
Is
yeah, give me your thoughts.
I'm not gonna give like I don't really have any specific thoughts on like those words. There's a lot of weird prophecy in these books, and I think he's just got to go with it.
Yeah.
I don't think we're supposed to know what any of that means, and I think that like you're supposed to like look back on it and think like, oh, okay, it was kind of like because the Domovoy and like a couple other of the little critter guys, little ghosty boys,
Oh
they do
yeah.
that a lot. Like they did it to Constantine, they did it to I think
They do it to
Maria.
Maria. Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't even bother like trying to because like the events haven't happened yet. And
Right.
there's like a billion different things that could
Dude,
actually
that
happen.
one
So
little bathhouse spirit, he's like throwing out prophecies. Once he gets seen by Vasya and acknowledged, he's just throwing out prophecies at every person who
yeah,
comes his way. Like even Constantine. Oh man. He throws out ones like you will be like a great man, but like all your trials will be ash, or all your accomplishments will be
yeah. I don't
nothing or
think we're done
something.
with Constantine yet,
We're not.
unfortunately.
I hope he dies a terrible death.
So I think we're pretty much done here. I mean, like I want to ask like one more question and just kind of like get your thoughts on something.
Okay.
What do you think about what do you think is going to happen with Marozco? Like, both like him just singular and his relationship with Vasia. Like, what do you think's up with that? Like going into
Yes.
this third book and probably rounding out the trilogy.
So he lost his emblem, right?
Right.
His
Yeah.
crystal, and that crystal was the thing that was making him more human, falling in love. So I think he's
Yeah.
going to be maybe a little bit more like Gandalf the White now. He's not going to be
Oh,
so personable.
like detached.
Yeah, he'll be a little more angelic and a little more like ethereal.
They'll
And
be
only
even better when
come
she wins his heart in the end.
yeah.
I don't know.
I
you know.
I don't I don't know how. I think he's probably going to be like it's going to end with a more resounding note of what we had this time, which is like a he'll be him, but more of like the spirit him and not so much like the person him. He'll be like the guiding father figure from afar or something. What do you think, however, is going to happen with Marozco and also with how do you think the story's going to end for Vasia?
So I don't really know what's going to happen with Marozco. I think I'm kind of inclined to agree with you there. He was already a little detached at the end, it seemed, right? He kind of just
Mm-hmm.
like wafted away or whatever.
Constantly surprised. How
Uh,
can you do this?
but I think Vasia is going to. This is just me at the end of a second book in a trilogy, but I mean, I think that she is going to be able to see the world, but maybe with like a twist, like this.
Yeah.
She's gonna because it seems like responsibility and growing up are really big themes in these books.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I don't think that Vasi is necessarily going to like, settle down and have a few kids with some big Russian guy or whatever. I don't know if that's like, it's never what she's wanted or anything, but I mean, like the mark of like a really, really great character arc is, a character getting not what they want, but what they need, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like Vasia very demonstrably needs to grow up, like needs to start like taking up the mantle of, if not domestic responsibility, at least like actions that don't put other people in danger.
Yes.
Like
Like I wouldn't
actions
be
that
surprised if on that note the trilogy ends with her writing home.
maybe or doing something that's almost more beneficial to her family than it is for her.
Yes.
But I don't even. That's the thing too. Is it's like I don't even know if that is what she needs. Like, because there are
Oh.
other characters in these books, right? I mean,
Mhm.
like, Catherine Arden did a really good job at fleshing out both Sasha and Olga. We kind of left Alyosha and Irina
Yeah.
behind. But still, it's like there's a family here, and Vasya can choose to be like a participatory member of that family, but she doesn't have to, right? But like I said, she could also not hurt it. Like she could also like not, you know,
Get everyone cast out in
I don't know,
shame.
and maybe I feel pretty confident that that's like a lot of what these books are about.
You know one character we never met?
Who?
Olga's husband.
Oh yeah, he's just
Not
off.
one
Yeah.
page.
Well, we
Yeah,
didn't
he's
need
just
him.
off the
We
whole
didn't
time.
need
We
him.
didn't need him. How old is Dimitri? Like, is there any possible chance of a Dimitri Vasia love
I don't know.
entanglement?
That's a good question. I mean, Dimitri's married. She is pregnant at the end of this book,
Yeah,
though.
that's right. I forgot she was pregnant
I don't know.
or that he was married.
I don't know. I don't see Vasia getting married. I don't know.
Yeah,
Like I don't see. I just don't. This is something she's never wanted. Like it's not something she needs.
right.
Like she doesn't need a good man. Like
No,
fuck
she
all
does
that.
not need
Fuck
a
all
good
that.
man.
That's dumb. But yeah, I am really excited to read this third installment in this really wonderful trilogy, and also really excited to have Catherine Arden on the podcast after the
Yeah.
so that's our announcement to everybody listening that Catherine Arden will be on the podcast That's going to wrap it up for us today, everybody, for book 2 in the Winternight trilogy. What a stellar book, and I'm really excited
Excellent
to
book.
get in. I'm actually already one chapter into the next one.
Are you really?
Yeah, I couldn't. It's so good. Like,
I held off. I wanted to. There was multiple times, but I had to keep saying no because I didn't want to know things.
dude, it's so funny. Like, I was just so lukewarm on the first like 100 pages of that first book, and now
Mm-hmm.
I'm in. I am so in for this, and it's just so nice that something that I thought. And it's teaching me even more about reading. Even though I read a shitload of books, it's just like it'll turn out pretty cool. It's just like give it maybe
Right.
like more than like 100
Withhold
pages.
your judgment just a little bit and let
Yeah,
this
yeah.
story develop.
I feel like
Some
when I was like 24 or something, like a while ago, like I probably would have DNF'd that first book because it wasn't
really
like, yeah, just like,
DNF'd.
yeah, I would have just like, you know,
Wah.
put it down. But I'm really glad I didn't. I'm really happy about it.
Yeah, some of the prettiest flowers take years to bloom, and I think
Wow.
it's a lesson that we can all learn from these books and just any story that give it a little longer.
It takes a little
Maybe its
while
time has yet to
sometimes.
come.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
wasn't even that long. I was being a
It really
baby.
wasn't. It really
I was
wasn't.
being a
But it's
baby.
it's it's very good. I'm super excited to see where the story goes and what happens in the third book, and to talk with Katherine as well. And on that note, if you have any questions for Katherine that you would like us to ask during the interview, and we'll of course read your name out during it, please email us at book.reviews.kill@gmail.com.
And if you'd like to support the podcast and Chad and myself, there is a link to our Patreon page in the link in the description for this episode. Go ahead and go to the Patreon, check it out. We have a bunch of deleted scenes on the Patreon, so they're interesting.
They're
I
pretty
will
freaking
say
good, man.
they're all
Some of our
right. Yeah.
best work is
Our
there.
best work. We get way off topic. And if you'd like to join the discussion, we do have a Discord, and there is a special channel in the Discord for the Winternight trilogy. So get in there, join the conversation. Really awesome people in. There's like 400 people in there right now.
It's a
Jeez.
lot.
Good thing we got mods.
It's marvelous.
But yeah, everybody, thank you so much for listening to mine and Chad's recap of this wonderful book and this excellent series. And hope you all have a really awesome rest of your day and happy reading.
Bye, everybody.